It was July 23rd, 2019. It was a typical LA summer night, cooling off from the heat of the day. But what I was searching on truthfinder.com was anything but typical. I was up late running names and dates through a database. I was looking for answers. I grew up Mormon in a family that kept a lot of secrets. My mom, in particular, is a vault. She is 100% a part of the silent generation and is the queen of hiding information, especially about herself. Don't bother anybody was my mom's mantra when we were growing up. Stay quiet, stay small, and my God, don't ask people questions. I had questions though, lots of them. Many surrounding the biggest family secret, the disappearance of my Uncle Freddie. Nobody had seen or heard from my mom's little brother in 20 years. This family mystery has fed into my obsession with true crime podcasts. My favorite murder, Crime Junkie, Dateline, Morbid, Buried Bones. I could go on and on. I fill my days with crime investigations, listening to people searching for answers in stories about the murdered and the missing. I have been asking my mom for years, where is Freddie? I would get limited, disconnected answers that only intrigued me and left me with more questions. Until I realized that I had basically taken a crash course on investigation via the University of True Crime podcast. What if I could solve the mysterious disappearance of Uncle Freddie myself? First, I laid out the bits and pieces my mom had given me over the years. I knew they grew up in Farron, Utah, a tiny Mormon town during the 40s and 50s. Freddie was gay. And in that time and place, he had to be closeted, even to the point of getting married to a woman, though it didn't last. Fred became a cross-country truck driver, and in the 90s, he moved in with my grandma, Edna Mae, in Grand Junction, Colorado. He lived with her until they got into an argument, and in a horrible turn of events, he hit her. Edna pressed charges, and Freddie went to prison. That is the last known bit of info my mom knew. Edna Mae died in 1999, and with her, my mom's last connection to Freddie. Back to July 23rd, 2019. I rolled up my investigative podcast sleeves and started searching. I quickly realized those bits and pieces weren't enough. I had to ask my mom for full names and specific dates. In a way, I wanted her permission to start looking, and even though I knew she didn't want me digging up old ghosts, she gave me what I needed. I looked for birth certificates, death certificates, marriage records, prison records, whatever I could find. The strangest part, I wasn't even able to confirm the facts I was told about Freddie. There was no marriage record on file, no prison record on file. What I did find was a date of death. Freddie had died on November 25th, 2004. I checked different sites to make sure, and they all had the same date. He was dead, and had been for 15 years at that point. November 25th in 2004 was Thanksgiving. I was home with my whole family for the holiday, sitting down, catching up, eating turkey. All while Fred was somewhere dying. It's weird when you think about it like that. I was never going to find him, welcome him back into the family, and my mom was never going to either. I felt sad that he had died, and sadder that nobody knew about it. I had to call my mom. I remember some small talk, and I almost didn't tell her. After all, did she really want to know? But I awkwardly blurted out that I had done some searching and Freddie had died in 2004. She was quiet on the other end of the phone. I heard her breathe in, and then she sighed and said, okay. She didn't ask any questions. I could have chosen to leave it. My mom had an answer, but while I had solved one tiny part of the mystery, I couldn't find an official death certificate, meaning there was no burial info and no cause of death. My investigation felt incomplete. How did Freddie die? My crime podcast brain kept asking, what if he had been murdered? And there was a John Doe and a cold case out there that I could help solve. To get Freddie's death certificate, I had to prove my mom and Freddie were brother and sister. That meant I needed my mom's birth certificate. She avoided me, per usual. It took her months to send. Once I had it, though, I submitted it to the state of Colorado. But the information didn't match because no parents were listed on Freddie's death record. Colorado wouldn't release it to me. Feeling frustrated, I let it go. Cut to 2022, I'm home, visiting my parents. One night, my whole family was chatting about genealogy and our family tree. Mormons are into that stuff. And my brother asked about Freddie. Whatever happened with my search? So, the next morning, I tell my mom, we are figuring this out. The missing link was Freddie's birth certificate because their parents would definitely be listed on that. My mom doesn't have it, but asks if we can request it from the state of Utah. We? Of course! So, with my mom over my shoulder at the kitchen table, we went to the state of Utah's vital records site and got it together. It was like we were finally a team, just a couple of internet sleuths working to solve a mystery. I felt closer to her in that moment than I had in a long time. A month later, with the paperwork submitted and matched, I received Freddie's death certificate. I went into my bedroom and closed the door. I wanted to sit by myself and read it. Hardly anything was on there. It was sparse. No known mother and father, no known address, said never married. It felt as if Fred was never awake, like there was no sharing of information with anyone at the hospital. And was he homeless? Did he have any personal belongings? More questions. It did answer my biggest one. Freddie died at 10:10 a.m. on November 25th, 2004, of aspiration pneumonia with a secondary cause, alcoholism, meaning drinking had caused the pneumonia, which killed him. So in the end, Freddie wasn't murdered. He drank himself to death. And there was no burial site. He was cremated. I called the funeral home listed, hoping there was a chance we could at least retrieve his ashes, but that was a dead end. They had no record of Freddie. Too much time had passed. I got my answers, right? I don't know. I'm struggling because this so-called vital record I'd waited so long to see revealed nothing about my uncle's actual life. It forced me to realize that no amount of documents would help, because Freddie was a person that I will never know. He remains a mystery to me. This was not an ideal podcast ending, but I should know better than anyone that things don't always get solved. So instead of feeling closure, I feel heartbroken. How does my mom feel? I have no idea. My mom remains a mystery too. My relationship to true crime has changed. I'm still obsessed, but I listen differently. I admit I got into the gory details of a crime without a lot of thought towards the victim. It was just a story to pass the time. Now I appreciate when a podcast tells me about the family, the friends, all the hallmarks of a lived life. It's easy to get caught up in the sensationalism and forget that these are real people that mattered. Freddie mattered. And I hope wherever he is, he knows we finally found him.